The faint scent of burnt toast clung to the air, a familiar morning symphony. Liam swiftly packed the lunchbox, adding a hand-drawn rocket. "Daddy has to make magic happen, right, sweetie?" he murmured, kissing Lily's hair. The corporate logo on his pristine shirt felt like a costume. Another day, another mountain of invoices. He checked his worn wallet, a sigh escaping. Just enough. Almost. His reflection in the darkened window showed tired eyes. The city was already roaring. Fluorescent lights hummed, a constant low thrum against his temple. Liam stared at the glowing spreadsheet, a cog in the vast, indifferent machine. Victoria Sterling's latest email, imperious and clipped, demanded immediate attention. Another dictate from the ivory tower, he thought, a familiar bitterness rising. They never saw the struggle, only the numbers. His efforts felt invisible here, just another faceless drone. He adjusted his tie, feeling the familiar corporate chokehold. The clock ticked relentlessly onward. Another day swallowed by the machine. His phone buzzed. Daycare. A minor incident, a scraped knee, and a gentle reminder about the outstanding balance. Liam's chest tightened. He promised reassurance, a soothing tone he didn't feel. The weight of Lily's future, a silent, heavy burden, pressed down. He envisioned her innocent face and pushed the unease aside. "I'll make it work," he whispered, more to himself than the phone. The call ended, leaving an echoing silence. His hand instinctively went to his empty coffee cup. He needed strength, more than caffeine could offer. The apartment was silent, save for the distant city hum. Lily was asleep, her breathing soft and even. Liam, hunched over his laptop at the kitchen table, tried to focus. The news played softly on his phone. A glowing profile of Victoria Sterling, visionary CEO. He scoffed. Visionary. More like insulated. He wished his vision included a fully funded college plan. His own dreams felt perpetually out of reach. The stark contrast was a bitter pill. He closed the laptop, unable to concentrate. Sleep was a distant, unwelcome thought. The late-night office exodus was a trickle. Liam, finally done, felt the familiar ache in his shoulders. As he navigated the dimly lit parking garage, a glint of metal caught his eye. Near Victoria Sterling's sleek black sedan, a figure lingered. Too close. His corporate cynicism warred with an instinctual unease. Something felt wrong, out of place in the sterile quiet. A shadow moved, then solidified. He quickened his pace, a prickle of alarm. His breath hitched. Every instinct screamed danger. He paused, heart thudding a slow, heavy rhythm. The figure, cloaked in shadow, seemed to be tampering with her car door. Then a muffled gasp from inside. Liam's breath hitched. He saw Victoria, slumped against the steering wheel, her face pale, a hand pressed to her chest. Not a car thief. This was something far more desperate. He had to decide. His mind raced, calculating the risk. His ingrained distrust fought with a sudden, urgent sense of responsibility. The dark corners of the garage seemed to close in. A silent prayer escaped his lips. He took a tentative step forward. The figure, now visible as a younger man, was fumbling with something in Victoria's purse. She stirred weakly, a whimper escaping her lips. "No," she rasped, barely audible. The man panicked, shoving her harder against the seat. Liam didn't think. The image of Lily's trusting face flashed in his mind. He moved, a primal surge of protectiveness overriding caution. A silent, desperate leap into the unknown. Adrenaline coursed, hot and urgent. His grip was firm, unwavering. This was beyond his corporate duties. He lunged, tackling the startled assailant from behind. A brief, violent struggle ensued, shouts echoing in the cavernous garage. The man, surprised, dropped the purse and bolted. Liam, adrenaline surging, watched him disappear. He turned, breathless, to Victoria. She was breathing shallowly, eyes wide with shock, a bruise already forming on her temple. "Are you okay?" he stammered, his voice rough. Her gaze was unfocused, distant. The silence pressed in once more. He felt a strange, cold dread. "No," she interrupted, a strange urgency in her tone. Liam hesitated, a knot forming in his stomach. What just happened? The question hung heavy in the air. His world, once so predictable, had just been irrevocably altered. He waited for her explanation, the cold night air biting. Victoria pushed herself up, wincing. "He's gone." Her gaze was sharp, devoid of the earlier fear. "This cannot be reported." Liam frowned. "Someone just attacked you." "And I handled it," she snapped, though her hand trembled slightly. "I need you to understand," she continued, her voice low and fierce. "This incident never happened," Victoria stated, her eyes locking onto his. "You saw nothing, said nothing. We walked out. End of story." Liam stared, dumbfounded. "Just like that?" "Just like that," she affirmed, a chilling finality in her voice. He could feel his cynicism stirring. The powerful always covered their tracks. "And what about this?" He gestured vaguely at the lingering tension, the reality of what just transpired. "It's a misunderstanding," she corrected, her jaw tight. "For both our sakes, Liam, we forget it." The implication hung in the air. His job, his future. Liam's mind raced, a montage of his daughter's smile flashing before him. Rent, school, the constant tightrope walk of his finances. Reporting this would bring a storm, and he was just a minor cog. Victoria's power was absolute, her ruthlessness legendary, but his integrity, his sense of right and wrong, screamed in protest. He was being asked to lie, to become complicit in a cover-up. For what? His own precarious stability? He looked at her, truly looked, and saw not just the CEO but a woman desperate to control. A trap, he realized, tightening its invisible coils around him. "Check for cameras," Victoria instructed, already regaining her composure. She moved with a renewed, almost frantic energy, searching the dark corners. "If there's any footage, it has to be gone." Liam, still reeling, felt the cold dread of implication wash over him. He began to scan the parking structure, his breath clouding. No obvious lenses, but he knew how discreet they could be. He saw the faint drag marks where the attacker had been. "Help me get rid of this," she said, indicating a stray button from her coat. He picked it up, a silent, unwilling accomplice. But then they moved through the empty parking garage like phantoms, erasing their presence. Victoria's focus was absolute, her commands crisp, leaving no room for argument. Liam felt a strange mix of resentment and reluctant admiration for her control. Eventually, they reached the elevator, the silence oppressive. The sterile office lights felt alien after the shadowed confrontation. He saw a smear of dirt on his sleeve, a physical reminder of the unspoken pact. "You'll be in the office early tomorrow," Victoria stated, not a question. "We need to talk about an adjustment to your responsibilities." The elevator doors opened to the pristine, silent lobby. The next morning, the office felt charged, yet outwardly serene. Liam found himself summoned to Victoria's executive suite, a rare event. Her assistant, a woman with eyes that missed nothing, gave him a small, unreadable smile. Inside, Victoria sat behind her imposing desk, already in full command mode. "Liam," she began, her voice cool, professional. "About yesterday." He braced himself, anticipating the thinly veiled threats. "I'm assigning you to a special project," she continued, bypassing his expectation. "Directly under my supervision. Highly confidential." The implication was clear. Now he was truly under her thumb. "This project requires absolute discretion," Victoria explained, her gaze piercing. "It's sensitive, involving proprietary company algorithms. Top secret." Liam felt a fresh wave of unease. This was a deeper rabbit hole than he imagined. "And what exactly is my role?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "You'll be providing specific, hands-on support," she replied, a faint, almost imperceptible smirk touching her lips. "Ensuring no data leaks. From now on, you'll be privy to crucial information." He realized she wasn't just silencing him. She was binding him, making him indispensable and therefore deeply implicated. His cynical heart knew this was a classic power play. "This expanded role comes with a significant compensation adjustment," Victoria added, as if an afterthought. She slid a document across the polished desk. Liam's eyes scanned the numbers, his breath catching. It was more than he'd ever dreamed, enough to finally give his daughter the security he craved. The cynical voice inside him shouted, "Bribery." But another desperate part whispered, "Opportunity." "Consider it an investment in your commitment," she said, watching him closely. He knew with a sinking feeling that this was the bait, a golden cage, but a cage nonetheless. He thought of his daughter's worn shoes, the extra tutoring she needed, the financial strain that had been a constant companion. This money, this position, could change everything for them. But at what cost? His integrity? His peace of mind? He looked up, meeting Victoria's unwavering gaze. She was offering him a lifeline, but it was tied to her own agenda. A devil's bargain, he mused, his stomach churning. He saw the glint of triumph in her eyes, already knowing his answer. He was trapped between his principles and his parental love. "I understand the terms," Liam finally said, his voice a tightrope walk. He picked up the pen, the smooth click echoing in the silent office. His signature would seal his fate, intertwine it with Victoria's. No backing out now, no escaping the web she had spun. He felt a deep sense of resignation and a flicker of something new, a dangerous curiosity. What had he just signed himself up for? His stable, predictable life was now a distant memory. He looked at his signature, a commitment etched in corporate ink. His new life had just begun, irrevocably bound to Victoria Sterling. She smiled, a cold, predatory gleam in her eyes. Liam sat at his new desk, the silence of his child's sleeping form a stark contrast to the sterile office. He'd just reviewed his first pay stub. The numbers were almost surreal. Finally, rent was manageable. Groceries weren't a tightrope walk. A small, almost imperceptible knot in his chest loosened. Victoria had assigned him to Project Nightingale, a vaguely defined, strategic asset relocation. His cynicism nagged, but the immediate financial cushion was undeniable. He found himself sifting through coded documents, surprisingly mundane at first glance. A message from HR flashed, confirming his child's new comprehensive health benefits. This was it. He was doing it. Providing. A quiet triumph, stained only by the source. A sealed envelope appeared on his desk, unmarked, left by a silently efficient assistant. Inside, a single, grainy photograph. A warehouse, half demolished, bathed in an eerie blue light. A small, dark object lay on a forgotten pallet. Not mundane at all. Victoria's instructions were concise. Analyze logistical vulnerabilities for high-value asset retrieval. No mention of what the asset was, or why it was in a derelict building. His gut clenched. This wasn't just paperwork. This felt like a prelude to something far dirtier. He cross-referenced the photo with municipal records. The warehouse was condemned. A shiver ran down his spine. Why would an asset of such value be in such a place? The silence of the office now felt oppressive, the fluorescent hum a buzzing threat. He was already deeper than he knew. Despite the unease, Liam focused on the task, his analytical mind taking over. He discovered a critical flaw in the warehouse's security feed, an obscure blind spot. His report highlighted it, proposing a low-risk, high-efficiency extraction route. Victoria's email arrived minutes later. Impressive, Carter. Expedite implementation plan. A fleeting satisfaction. A professional validation he hadn't expected in this compromised role. Maybe he could control this, mitigate the risks, turn it into something less sinister. He drafted a plan for a minimal-impact operation, focused on precision, not force. He felt a flicker of hope that his skills could be used for good. Even here, perhaps he could navigate Victoria's world without losing himself entirely. The path ahead, though murky, seemed to offer a slim chance of redemption. "Daddy, why are you always working?" His child's small voice pierced the late-night quiet. He'd missed story time again, lost in blueprints of the target site. The new benefits were great, but they came at a cost. His time, his presence. He saw the faint circles under his eyes in the mirror, a testament to his double life. Victoria's demands were relentless, each email a new layer of urgency. He felt the invisible threads pulling tighter, binding him not just to her, but to the project. The asset consumed his thoughts, pushing out the simple joys of fatherhood. He scrolled through pictures of his child, a pang of guilt sharp in his chest. Was this stability worth the sacrifice of moments he could never reclaim? The shadows stretched long, swallowing his brief moments of peace. Victoria summoned him to her private office, an unusual, direct meeting. "Your plan is audacious," she stated, a hint of grudging respect in her tone. She announced a slight adjustment. He would be overseeing the field team. Direct supervision, Carter. Your baby, so to speak. He felt a surge of professional pride, even as his internal alarm bells rang. This was a major step up, Real authority. More money, too, she casually added. He found himself explaining the intricacies of his strategy, a strange partnership forming. He was no longer just an analyst. He was an integral part of the operation. A false sense of mastery settled over him, the thrill of command masking the danger. He was driving the bus, or so he thought. A cryptic message appeared on his secure terminal. Not from Victoria. The asset is not what it seems. Be wary of the handler. It vanished seconds later, leaving no trace, no sender. His blood ran cold. Someone else knew. Someone else was watching. Was it a warning? A threat? Another player in Victoria's convoluted game? He tried to trace the origin, but the digital breadcrumbs led nowhere. The meticulous plan he'd crafted suddenly felt flimsy, exposed. The handler, was it Victoria herself, or someone higher up? Paranoia began to gnaw at him, a cold, insidious dread. His sense of control evaporated, replaced by a chilling uncertainty. Liam briefed his hand-picked team, a mix of seasoned corporate security and logistics experts. He felt a strange camaraderie, a sense of purpose beyond the shadows. His plan was flawless, every contingency accounted for, every risk assessed. The team looked at him with respect, their efficiency a balm to his frayed nerves. Tonight, the asset would be secured, the project completed. He allowed himself a moment of genuine belief in success, a clean execution. This would be over. He could go back to being just a father, albeit a wealthier one. The thought of his child sleeping peacefully spurred him on. He would deliver, and then he would be free. A fleeting glimpse of the finish line almost within reach. Hours before extraction, a system glitch. The warehouse's main power grid failed. His meticulously planned route plunged into darkness, the blind spot now a gaping void. Emergency backup lights flickered, casting long, disorienting shadows. Communication with the field team became intermittent, crackling with static. Sabotage? A coincidence? He couldn't shake the feeling of an unseen hand. The operation, once so crisp, was now a chaotic scramble. He barked orders, trying to reroute, to adapt, a cold sweat beading on his brow. The image of the unseen player flashed in his mind, a silent, mocking presence. His control, once absolute, was now just an illusion. The asset felt further away than ever. Against all odds, they succeeded. The asset was retrieved, secured, en route. Liam watched the live feed, a surge of adrenaline and relief washing over him. The team's professionalism shone through the chaos. His leadership, however strained, had held. Victoria's call came immediately, her voice cool, but with an undeniable note of triumph. "Excellent work, Carter. Beyond expectations." He leaned back, exhausted but exhilarated. He had faced the fire and emerged intact. He'd kept his word, delivered on his end of the bargain. A true victory, despite the cost. He felt a profound sense of closure. The promise of stability for his child was no longer just a hope, but a reality. He had won. His phone vibrated. An encrypted message, again from an unknown source. "The asset isn't a thing, Liam. It's a person, a witness." A chilling realization. He replayed the grainy photo, focusing on the dark object. It wasn't a package. It was a person, bound, barely visible in the dim light. Victoria's voice echoed in his mind. Strategic asset relocation, not extraction. He hadn't rescued a valuable item. He'd kidnapped a human being. His victory was a lie, a carefully constructed illusion. He was now an accessory to abduction. The package he'd secured was a living, breathing secret, now his responsibility. His integrity wasn't just compromised, it was irrevocably shattered. His new life had just begun, irrevocably bound to Victoria's terrible secret. Liam's phone still felt hot in his trembling hand. The cryptic message seared into his retina. That wasn't an asset. That was a witness. His breath hitched, a cold knot tightening in his gut. The silence of his apartment felt deafening, accusing. He remembered the muffled cries, the brief struggle, dismissing it as a disgruntled employee. A monstrous lie. He had kidnapped someone, a person with a life, a story, now a pawn in Victoria's ruthless game. His chest ached, a primal scream caught in his throat. How could he have been so blind, so desperate? The image of his sleeping child, innocent and trusting, flashed behind his eyes, a stark contrast to his actions. Everything he'd done, every desperate financial calculation now tainted by this abhorrent act. His integrity, his very soul, felt like a hollowed-out shell. There was no going back from this. He had to know who this person was and why Victoria needed them silenced. He had to know everything. Morning light, harsh and unforgiving, illuminated Victoria's pristine office as Liam entered, a cold resolve replacing his panic. Victoria sat, composed, a predatory stillness about her, reviewing documents on her sleek tablet. Her gaze, sharp and assessing, met his, a hint of impatience in her perfectly manicured posture. "Something on your mind, Liam?" "The asset," he began, his voice surprisingly steady, despite the tremor in his hands. "It's a person, isn't it?" A flicker of something unreadable in her eyes. Gone in an instant, replaced by a carefully constructed, dismissive smile. "Liam, we've been over this. Proprietary information. It's handled." Her tone was clipped, final. "No, Victoria. This is different. I received a message. An anonymous tip." He watched her closely. Her composure cracked, a subtle tremor in her hand, her jaw tightening almost imperceptibly. "What kind of message?" He held her gaze. A cold, hard truth settling between them. "That I abducted a witness. Someone you needed silenced." The air crackled with unspoken threats. The fragile truce between them shattered. The game, he realized, had just changed irrevocably. Later, Liam found himself in a discreet, heavily secured basement room, a chilling secret tucked away beneath the corporate facade. The room was sparsely furnished. A single cot, a small table, a stark reminder of its prison-like purpose. And there, huddled in the corner, was a woman, small and fragile, with wide, terrified eyes that mirrored his own dread. Her wrists bore faint, fading marks, stark evidence of her recent ordeal, and she flinched perceptibly when he moved. He saw not a corporate asset, not a data point, but a human being, trapped and utterly helpless in Victoria's web. Her name, he now knew from a hushed, furtive glance at a file, was Ilara Vance, a former data analyst for a competitor. Victoria's official files had painted her as a rogue agent, a thief stealing invaluable intellectual property. Now, Liam saw only profound fear, and a desperate, silent plea in her eyes that he wouldn't ignore. What truly devastating secrets did Ilara hold that Victoria would go to such extremes to silence her? And what was Victoria's real objective in keeping her confined here, away from the world? Liam retreated to his office, the image of Ilara's terrified, pleading face searing itself into his memory. He slammed his fist on his desk, the dull thud echoing the violent turmoil churning within his gut. His child's tuition, the relentless mortgage, the endless cascade of bills. They had driven him to this moral abyss. He'd sought financial security, a stable future, never complicity in a crime this heinous. This was a nightmare. How could he ever look his daughter in the eye again, knowing the monstrous acts he'd unknowingly facilitated? The irony was a bitter, suffocating draft. Trying to build a safe world for her, he'd irrevocably destroyed his own. He had to get Ilara out, not just for her freedom, but for a desperate final shred of his own shattered soul. But how? Victoria was too powerful, too ruthless, too entrenched. He was trapped, utterly and completely. His phone vibrated, a sudden jarring jolt. A new, anonymous message. His heart hammered against his ribs. He braced himself, dreading yet simultaneously needing whatever new horror it held. The message was brief, stark, chilling. "She knows about the merger and the offshore accounts." Liam's blood ran cold, a glacial dread spreading through his veins. The merger, the one Victoria had been pushing so aggressively. Offshore accounts. The words clicked into place, resonating with a sickening clarity. Money laundering. This wasn't just corporate espionage. This was deep systemic corruption, a festering malignancy at the heart of Victoria's empire, and Ilara Vance was the undeniable key. The anonymous sender, whoever they were, clearly possessed intimate, undeniable inside information. An ally, perhaps, or merely another manipulative player, leveraging him for their own inscrutable agenda. He had to tread carefully, meticulously, but this new information solidified Ilara's imminent danger and profound importance. He looked at the sender's details again. No traceable origin, a ghost in the machine, a whisper in the digital void. But this ghost had just handed him a powerful, dangerous weapon, and simultaneously assigned him a terrifying new mission. His singular desire to provide for his child now irrevocably intertwined with a desperate life-or-death fight for justice. Victoria called an urgent, unscheduled meeting. Her voice clipped, her demeanor radiating an icy, dangerous calm. "Someone is attempting to destabilize our current acquisition strategy," she announced, her voice echoing with controlled fury. Her eyes, sharp and predatory, swept across the room, lingering on Liam for a fraction too long. A silent accusation. Any leaks, any unauthorized communications will be dealt with severely and without mercy. Her gaze pinned him. It wasn't just a general warning. It was a thinly veiled threat, a chilling confirmation that she knew he knew, or at least suspected. The pressure mounted, an almost unbearable weight on his shoulders. He was caught between Victoria's iron fist and Alara's silent, desperate plea. He imagined Victoria's elaborate network of power, the intricate, venomous web she had meticulously woven over decades. He realized the true, terrifying scale of what he was up against. A corporate titan with no discernible scruples, no moral boundaries. His path to saving Alara, he now understood, would mean dismantling Victoria's carefully constructed, corrupt empire, piece by piece. The stakes were astronomically higher than he could have ever conceived, encompassing far more than just his own life. Liam returned to Alara's confines, a new, grim resolve hardening the lines of his exhausted face. He approached cautiously, deliberately, offering a bottle of water, a simple yet profound gesture of humanity. "I know about the merger," he said softly, his voice low and steady. "And the accounts. Everything." Alara's eyes, wide with a mixture of terror and disbelief, flickered with a desperate, fragile glimmer of hope. "Victoria, she'll kill me," she whispered, her voice raw, laced with an undeniable, profound fear. "Not if I can help it," Liam promised, the words feeling foreign and monumental yet undeniably true. He outlined a desperate, profoundly risky plan to get her out, to somehow expose Victoria's monstrous machinations. It meant betraying Victoria, risking his job, his entire future, everything he'd painstakingly built for his child. But the alternative, letting Alara become another silent victim, swallowed by the corporate maw, was utterly unbearable. He would become her protector, her unlikely champion, whether he wanted to embrace that role or not. Alara, hesitantly at first, then with increasing urgency began to speak, her voice gaining strength with each revelation. She detailed how she'd stumbled upon the glaring discrepancies in the voluminous merger documents, a carefully hidden trail, shell companies, wildly inflated valuations, and a labyrinthine network of offshore transactions, stretching across continents. The true horrifying purpose, a massive, intricate money laundering scheme, inextricably tied to a powerful, shadowy consortium. Victoria, Alara explained, was not merely a participant but a key player, orchestrating the complex financial wizardry. Alara had tried to blow the whistle internally, but was swiftly and brutally silenced, then abducted without a trace. Her information wasn't just damning, it was explosive, capable of collapsing entire financial empires and bringing down powerful figures. Liam listened, his deep-seated cynicism momentarily forgotten, replaced by a grim, unyielding determination. This wasn't just about Victoria anymore. It was about exposing a vast, insidious criminal enterprise operating in the shadows. He was no longer just a father providing for his child. He was now a reluctant, unwitting crusader for truth. A sudden, harsh banging rattled Liam's office door, a jarring intrusion into his newfound resolve. "Security. Mr. Carter, Ms. Sterling requires your immediate presence in the executive suite." The voice was cold, unyielding. Liam froze, a cold dread seizing his gut. They knew, or at least they suspected. The clock was ticking, mercilessly. He looked at Alara, profound fear etched deeply on her pale, drawn face. Time was rapidly running out for them both. He had to move, and fast. The security guard outside, a relentless, unthinking automaton, rattled the door again. He grabbed a burner phone he'd secretly acquired, a contact number already pre-dialed, a desperate lifeline. This was it, the point of no return. His heart hammered frantically against his ribs, a frantic drumbeat of terror and resolve. He had to trust someone, anyone, who wasn't Victoria, who wasn't part of this suffocating web of deceit. The security guard's voice grew sharper, more insistent, a metallic clang of authority that brooked no defiance. He looked at Alara, then at the burner phone, his perilous decision irrevocably made in that split second. He pressed send, his thumb trembling slightly, a silent, desperate prayer on his lips. The line connected with a soft click, a hushed, almost indistinguishable voice answering on the other end. "I have Alara Vance," Liam whispered, his gaze fixed on the office door, bracing for the inevitable breach. "She has information about the merger and offshore accounts. I need help. Real help." The voice on the other end was familiar, chillingly so, sending a fresh wave of dread through him. "I know, Liam," the voice responded, utterly devoid of surprise or emotion. "I'm the one who sent you the message." A new, deeper betrayal, a sickening punch to the gut. The anonymous ally was no ally at all, but a puppeteer. "You've played your part beautifully. Now bring her to the old warehouse by the docks. Alone." Liam felt a profound, all-consuming dread wash over him, realizing he'd been manipulated all along, a pawn in a larger game. He was caught in a trap far more intricate, more dangerous, and more insidious than he could have ever conceived. Liam pushed open the heavy steel door, the groan of protesting hinges echoing in the cavernous warehouse. Alara Vance, pale and trembling, clung to his arm, her eyes wide with fear. A single, bare bulb hung precariously overhead, casting long, distorted shadows. "Right on time, Mr. Carter." A voice, smooth as polished obsidian, resonated from the darkness. It wasn't the voice from the phone, it was deeper, more menacing, yet oddly familiar. A figure emerged from the gloom, tall and impeccably dressed, a predatory smile playing on his lips. Liam felt a cold dread solidify in his gut. He knew this man. Arthur Thorne, CEO of Sterling Corp's largest competitor, a known, ruthless operator. "You've delivered my package as instructed," Thorne purred, gesturing to Alara. "And now, your usefulness, I'm afraid, has expired." Alara gasped, her grip tightening on Liam's arm, a silent plea. "What do you want with her, Thorne?" Liam demanded, stepping in front of Alara. Thorne chuckled, a dry, humorless sound that scraped against the concrete walls. "She has information that could cripple Sterling Corp and by extension Victoria. Information I intend to use to my advantage, not exposed to some naive public. You thought you were a hero, Liam? You were merely my unwitting usher." He snapped his fingers and two hulking figures emerged, moving towards Alara. "Let's not make this difficult," Thorne advised, his eyes fixed on Liam. "Your little crusade has already done enough damage. To Victoria, to Alara, and most significantly, to yourself." Liam lunged, a desperate, futile attempt to intervene, but a heavy hand clamped down on his shoulder. His arm was twisted painfully behind his back, forcing him to watch. Alara cried out, her eyes locking with his, a silent accusation, a shattered trust. The two men efficiently dragged her further into the warehouse's depths. Thorne watched, a detached, almost bored expression on his face. "Don't worry, Mr. Carter. She'll be well taken care of. Her information will be repurposed, refined, and released at the opportune moment. A moment when it will serve my interests, not some fanciful notion of justice." Liam struggled, but the grip held firm, his anger boiling into impotent rage. He was a puppet, his strings expertly pulled, his every move foreseen. "And you, Liam," Thorne continued, turning his attention back to him. "You're a loose end. A man who thinks he can stand against the currents of power, how quaint. Your financial struggles, your child's future, your meager salary, all of it is leverage. You think you can just walk away, expose me, expose Victoria's dealings? I know about your daughter, Clara. Her school, her routine, your modest apartment." The words were a brutal punch to the gut, stealing Liam's breath. His core desire, his sole motivation, was now a weapon against him. "Don't you dare," Liam snarled, newfound venom in his voice. Thorne simply smiled, a chillingly confident grin. "Oh, I dare, Liam. I dare to expose your idealism for the foolishness it is." The heavy door at the far end of the warehouse clanged shut, silencing Alara's fading cries. Liam was released, stumbling forward, his legs suddenly weak. The emptiness in the warehouse was palpable, a stark monument to his failure. He had been played, outmaneuvered, his attempts to protect Ilara ending in her capture. His moral compass, once a guiding light, now spun wildly, shattered. Thorne stepped closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Your fatal flaw, Liam, is your belief that integrity matters to those who hold power. It's a weakness, a sentimentality that will utterly destroy you. You see corruption, and you want to fight it. I see opportunity. Now here's your final choice, Mr. Carter, and it's a simple one. You can go to the authorities, scream about what you've seen, and I will ensure you lose everything. Your job, your reputation, your access to Clara, every last shred of your stable life. Or you can take a small sum, a significant severance package, and walk away quietly. Disappear from this city, start anew, and never speak of this again. Liam stared at him, his mind reeling, the two paths equally horrifying. His integrity against his child's future, the ultimate Sophie's choice. He tasted ash in his mouth, the bitter tang of absolute defeat. This wasn't a choice. It was systematic destruction, meticulously planned. Liam tried to pull out his phone to call for help, to record Thorne's confession. Thorne merely laughed, holding up a small, sleek device. Don't bother. All signals in this secure warehouse are completely jammed. Every attempt you've made to alert anyone has been noted and neutralized. Even your anonymous contact, the one who first led you to Ilara, works for me. A fresh wave of nausea washed over Liam. The manipulation ran deeper than he ever imagined. He was utterly isolated, every avenue for escape or exposure meticulously sealed off. His belief in a system, even a corrupt one, that could offer a shred of justice, evaporated. The cynicism he harbored towards power had just been vindicated, brutally. The news broke an hour later, a carefully orchestrated media frenzy. Liam Carter, a disgruntled employee, rogue operative, accused of corporate espionage. The story painted him as the architect of Ilara Vance's disappearance, a betrayer. Evidence, fabricated with chilling precision, began to surface online. Victoria Sterling, in a carefully worded statement, expressed shock and profound disappointment. She vowed to cooperate fully with authorities, maintaining her impenetrable facade of control. Liam watched the headlines scroll, his name dragged through the mud, his reputation incinerated. This was Victoria's method, used against him, perfected by Thorne. He was a pariah, his professional life ending in public humiliation. The call from HR came swift and brutal, a pre-recorded message of termination. His access to the corporate network was revoked, his company phone bricked. Then came the news from Clara's school, a call from social services, investigating concerns. The threat to Clara, once a veiled warning, now manifested into a chilling reality. His apartment lease was mysteriously terminated, an eviction notice slipped under his door. Every pillar of his carefully constructed, stable life crumbled, one after another. He was truly alone, stripped of his livelihood, his home, his very identity, all for trying to do what he believed was right. Liam sat in the desolate, empty apartment, the silence a deafening roar. He had lost everything: Ilara, his job, his reputation, and now, the stability he promised Clara. His cynicism, once a shield, now felt like a curse, a self-fulfilling prophecy. He had railed against the powerful, and now the powerful had utterly crushed him. A discarded newspaper lay on the floor, Victoria Sterling's serene, composed face staring up at him. Beneath the image, a small, almost imperceptible detail caught his eye. A pin, on her lapel, the same symbol he'd seen somewhere else. Fleetingly. His world was reduced to ashes, but a tiny ember, a spark of defiance, flickered deep within. He had nothing left to lose, only a desperate need for answers. The symbol, a cryptic whisper in the echoing void, held an unexpected promise. A cold, sterile wind whipped around Liam as he stood by the river, the city lights a mocking blur. His phone, a dead weight, held the image of the cryptic symbol, Victoria Sterling. He remembered the flash of it on her lapel, the subtle distress in her eyes that day. It was a long shot, a desperate gamble, but what else did he have? He stared at the river, a dark mirror reflecting his broken life. The symbol felt like a whisper of something hidden, a secret society perhaps. He began to type, searching obscure forums, chasing digital ghosts. Hours melted into a relentless blur of code and hushed online communities. A name emerged linked to the symbol. The Watchers, a philanthropic network. He found an upcoming gala. Victoria Sterling listed as a patron. His only lead. The Grand Imperial Hotel glittered, a stark contrast to Liam's worn suit. He watched Victoria from a shadowed corner, her laugh echoing hollowly. She wore the symbol again, a small brooch glinting under the chandeliers. But tonight he saw it clearly, a flicker of fear in her composure. She moved through the crowd like a puppet, her smile never reaching her eyes. Liam knew this dance, the corporate facade, the hidden anxieties. He saw her slip away, heading towards a secluded garden terrace. His heart hammered against his ribs, a frantic drum of adrenaline. This was his chance, his one desperate shot at an unexpected alliance. He moved, a shadow among the glittering elite, his purpose sharp. "Ms. Sterling." Liam's voice was a low rumble in the quiet garden. She whirled around, eyes wide with alarm, her perfect mask momentarily shattered. "Mr. Carter, what on earth are you doing here?" Her tone was icy, a defensive shield. "I saw your brooch," Liam stated, his gaze fixed on the symbol. "The Watchers." Victoria's expression hardened, a flicker of something unreadable in her gaze. "That's none of your concern." She started to turn, dismissing him. "It is," Liam countered, stepping closer. "Especially since I know about Thorn." Her breath hitched. The carefully constructed facade cracked, revealing genuine fear. "He took Alara, Mrs. Sterling. He's framing me, ruining my life. And I believe," Liam finished, "he's holding something over you too." Victoria's composure finally shattered, her face paling in the dim light. "You know nothing," she whispered, her voice laced with desperation. "I know the symbol isn't just a fashion accessory," Liam pressed, unwavering. "It's a plea, isn't it? A hidden signal for those who need help escaping." She stared at him, her eyes searching his, weighing the risk. "Thorn has my family," she admitted, the words barely audible. "My sister." She explained Thorn's web of blackmail, how he exploited her company's assets. The money laundering scheme, far grander than Liam had imagined, implicated her. The Watchers, she revealed, was a quiet network aiding those trapped by such powers. "I need your help, Liam, as much as you need mine." An unlikely truce settled between them under the moonlight. Victoria, stripped of her corporate armor, looked profoundly vulnerable. "Thorn's entire operation hinges on the Crimson Ledger," she explained. "It's a digital record, hidden within his encrypted corporate servers." Liam listened, his mind racing, connecting the dots of Thorn's machinations. "We need access to it," he stated, his voice now firm, resolute, and fast. "He's planning a major transfer in 48 hours. Victoria detailed the server architecture, her knowledge astonishingly deep. "My team can provide a backdoor," she offered, "but the timing must be perfect." This was it, a new strategy, born from shared desperation and unexpected trust. Liam outlined his plan, leveraging Victoria's internal access. "We create a false internal audit alert," he proposed, "a ghost in the machine. It'll trigger a system-wide lockdown, forcing Thorn's security protocols offline." Victoria nodded, her initial shock giving way to a calculated resolve. "During that window," Liam continued, "we inject a data extraction script. It needs to be subtle, untraceable, a phantom stealing the ledger." He recalled his old hacking days, the precision required, the silent infiltration. "The script must target only the Crimson Ledger data," Victoria cautioned. "Any broader intrusion risks exposure, and we lose everything." Their strategy was risky, intricate, but held a fragile promise of hope. "The key is the internal network's vulnerability," Liam explained. "Thorn trusts his digital fortress, but he overlooks human error. Victoria's assistant, unwitting, would be their unwitting accomplice. Her access badge, her routine, her lunch break," Liam rattled off. He'd observed her during his brief time at Thorn's company, noting patterns. "We need to plant a device, a simple USB, in her workstation." Victoria's eyes narrowed, a flicker of her old ruthlessness returning. "Risky but feasible. She leaves her desk for exactly 15 minutes daily." The plan was audacious, relying on meticulous timing and Thorn's arrogance. "This is our only shot to expose him before Alara is lost forever." Victoria contacted a trusted, discreet tech specialist, a former colleague. "Dr. Anya Sharma," she introduced. She owes me a favor. Anya's face appeared on Liam's laptop screen, sharp and intelligent. She quickly grasped the gravity of their mission, her gaze unblinking. I can craft the script, Anya affirmed. A ghost protocol, as you say. It will replicate the ledger data and transmit it to a secure offshore server. Liam felt a surge of renewed purpose, a fragile hope blossoming in his chest. But we have less than 48 hours, Liam, Victoria reminded him, her voice grim. Thorne's final transfer is scheduled for Friday morning, 9 a.m. sharp. The clock was ticking, a relentless countdown to exposure or ultimate ruin. Liam spent the night refining the plan, every detail meticulously accounted for. He felt a strange calm, the despair replaced by a burning, focused energy. Victoria, too, worked tirelessly, coordinating with Anya, securing internal assets. The threat to Clara remained unspoken, but it fueled his every waking moment. He looked at a photo of his daughter, her innocent smile a beacon in the darkness. This wasn't just about Ilara anymore. It was about reclaiming justice. Their strategy was a high-wire act, one misstep meaning catastrophic failure. The next 36 hours would determine everything, a desperate race against time. Liam closed his eyes, picturing the layout of Thorne's floor, the assistant's desk. He would not fail. Not now. Not when so much hung in the balance. Liam's breath hitched, the stale air of the executive corridor prickling his skin. Victoria, a shadow in the dim light, motioned him forward. Her eyes, usually cold, held a flicker of shared desperation. "Remember the ventilation schematics," she whispered, her voice a taut wire. He nodded, recalling Thorne's obsession with a specific, soundproofed vault door. This was it, the point of no return. The crimson ledger, almost within reach, his heart hammered against his ribs, a frantic drumbeat of anticipation. Every creak of the building felt like a giant step. Clara's face flashed in his mind, a silent prayer. They moved, two disparate souls united by a common enemy. The motion sensor above Thorne's assistant's desk pulsed, a sudden red eye. Victoria froze, pressing herself flat against the polished marble wall. Liam pulled her back into the alcove where the outdated alarm panel sat. "Thorne upgraded," she hissed, "but he's lazy with the old tech." He worked quickly, his fingers dancing over the cold metal, a memory from a forgotten security seminar. A faint click, and the red light extinguished, plunging them into deeper silence. He'd observed the technician last month, a casual glance that now saved them. Victoria's gaze, momentarily impressed, met his. A quiet understanding passed between them, a fragile bond forged in danger. They pressed on, deeper into the lion's den. Thorne's private study, a mausoleum of dark wood and silenced ambition. The heavy mahogany desk dominated the room, a fortress of secrets. Liam located the hidden access port behind a framed photograph of Thorne's deceased wife. "He keeps it sentimental, ironic," Liam muttered, pulling out the extraction device. Victoria scanned the room, a silent guardian, her hand hovering over a hidden panic button. The device whirred to life, a faint blue light indicating connection. Data streamed, slow, agonizingly slow, a digital hemorrhage. Every second stretched, a violin string taut before snapping. The silence was a palpable weight, pressing down on them both. They were in, but the clock is still ticking loudly. A distant elevator chime echoed, growing steadily closer. Victoria's head snapped up, her eyes wide with alarm. "He's here," she breathed, her voice barely a whisper. Liam cursed under his breath, the extraction barely halfway complete. He yanked the device, half expecting it to break, to fail. The blue light flickered, then died. But the data indicator showed progress. "We need to go, now," Victoria urged, her hand on his arm, pulling. Footsteps echoed in the corridor, heavy, deliberate, unmistakable. Thorne's scent, a sharp, expensive cologne, wafted through the cracked door. They had seconds, perhaps less, before discovery. The door swung open with a soft thud, revealing Thorne impeccably dressed. His gaze swept the room, pausing on the displaced photograph frame. A slow, dangerous smile spread across his face, devoid of warmth. "Liam." "Victoria." A surprise, to be sure. His voice, a silken threat. Liam stood his ground, the device hidden within his coat, his hand on its cold metal. "We needed to speak with you, Mr. Thorne," Victoria began, her voice steady. Thorne chuckled, a chilling sound. "About my ledger, perhaps?" His eyes, predatory and knowing, settled on Liam. "You've grown resourceful, Carter, but not resourceful enough." The room thrummed with unspoken violence, a storm about to break. "You underestimate us, Thorne," Liam said, his voice surprisingly firm. "And you, Carter, overestimate your moral high ground," Thorne countered, stepping closer. "The world sees me as a benefactor. You merely a bitter, disgruntled employee." "The Crimson Ledger tells a different story," Victoria interjected, her chin raised. Thorne's smile tightened. "An unsubstantiated rumor. Your word against mine." "With evidence," Liam revealed, tapping his coat pocket. "Evidence that just copied to a secure location." A flicker of genuine rage crossed Thorne's face, quick as a viper's strike. "A bluff," he snarled, but his composure wavered, his facade cracking. Liam watched him, recognizing the tell, the clenching of his jaw. He'd studied Thorne's habits for months, now it was paying off. Thorne lunged, a sudden shocking burst of violence. He grabbed for Liam, not the device, but his throat, primal and enraged. Victoria reacted instantly, intercepting him with a well-aimed kick. Thorne stumbled, snarling, then recovered, his eyes burning with fury. Liam used the distraction, sending a pre-programmed signal to the extraction device. It was uploading, a silent, desperate race against Thorne's wrath. Thorne bypassed Victoria, lunging for Liam again, a heavy antique letter opener in hand. Liam dodged, feeling the cold steel graze his jacket. "You won't get away with this," Thorne roared, his voice cracking. The fight was messy, desperate, fueled by adrenaline and fear. A high-pitched beep emanated from Liam's pocket, faint but unmistakable. Completion. The data was transferred. Thorne heard it too, his eyes widening in disbelief, then murderous rage. "No!" he screamed, dropping the letter opener, opting for brute force. He tackled Liam, sending them both crashing into the mahogany desk. Victoria grabbed a heavy bronze statue, ready to intervene. Papers scattered, a crystal decanter shattered, sharp shards glinting. Liam felt a sharp pain as his head hit the desk corner, but the device was done, the message sent. It was out of their hands. Victory, if it was indeed victory, felt agonizingly close, yet so distant. Thorne snarled, his grip tightening around Liam's neck. "You'll regret this, Carter, your daughter, and she'll pay." The mention of Clara ignited a fierce, protective fire in Liam. He twisted, drawing on a strength he didn't know he possessed, breaking free. Victoria swung the statue, catching Thorne on the shoulder. He roared, momentarily stunned, giving them a precious window. "Run!" she yelled, pulling Liam towards a hidden service door. Security alarms blared, a piercing shriek filling the opulent office. They burst into a utilitarian stairwell, the contrast jarring. The chase was on, their escape far from guaranteed. Down the grimy concrete stairs they fled, the alarms echoing above them. Liam felt a sticky warmth on his temple, blood. Victoria, despite her poise, gasped for air, her usual composure fractured. Thorne's enraged shouts followed them, a promise of retribution. They pushed through a fire exit, spilling out into a rain-slicked alleyway. The chill night air hit them, a sudden, brutal shock. Liam stumbled, his legs shaky, the weight of the last few minutes crushing. The data was sent, but at what cost? Thorne was a wounded animal. He gazed up at the towering dark silhouette of Thorne's building. Their mission was complete, but the true battle had just begun. The screen glowed, a digital torrent unleashed. Liam watched, Victoria beside him, as the Crimson Ledger details exploded across news channels. Thorne's carefully constructed empire began to fracture, headlines screaming of corporate malfeasance. The city, once Thorne's playground, now buzzed with his imminent downfall. A shared, tense breath filled the sterile office air. It was done. The truth was out. But the quiet hum of their phones warned of the storm yet to come. The first ripples of Thorne's desperate counterattack were already forming. Victoria's contacts moved with silent precision, an expose hitting the global wires. Thorne, cornered, lashed out. A malicious article surfaced, attempting to discredit Liam, painting him as a disgruntled employee. But the sheer weight of the Crimson Ledger data dwarfed Thorne's feeble attempts. The public outcry was immediate and overwhelming. Investors panicked, and the company's board convened an emergency session. Thorne's face, once synonymous with power, now flashed across screens, a symbol of corruption exposed. His influence crumbled faster than anyone anticipated. The threat to Clara was more insidious. Liam found his accounts scrutinized, his past employment discreetly questioned. He held Clara closer, every shadow a potential danger. He knew Thorne's reach. Victoria, sensing his fear, mobilized her security detail. "He won't touch her, Liam," she vowed, her voice firm. "We anticipated this." She was using her network, not just for the data, but for protection, a shield of resources he never knew existed. The isolation Thorne once used as a weapon was now his greatest weakness. Ilara's location, a secluded estate Thorne owned in the countryside, was pinpointed by Victoria's intelligence. She had a team ready, operating outside official channels. Liam hesitated, remembering his cynicism. "How can we trust this?" he asked, his voice strained. Victoria met his gaze, her usual detachment replaced by urgent resolve. "Because it's the right thing, Liam, and because she deserves to be free." Her words cut through his doubt. He saw not a CEO, but a woman driven by a fierce, if belated, sense of justice. The rescue was swift, silent, a pre-dawn raid, flawlessly executed. Liam, watching a live feed from a secure location, saw Ilara emerge, pale but alive. The relief that washed over him was profound, a raw, primal cry of gratitude. Victoria, overseeing the operation, let out a shaky breath. She hadn't just exposed Thorne, she had undone his personal cruelty. Ilara was whisked away to safety, a new life waiting, away from Thorne's gilded cage. The last vestige of Thorne's insidious control was shattered. Thorne himself was apprehended by federal agents, a dramatic capture at his private airfield. The Crimson Ledger provided irrefutable proof of fraud, embezzlement, and a litany of other crimes. The company, reeling, issued a statement condemning his actions. Liam and Victoria, now lauded as whistleblowers, gave their statements, detailing Thorne's manipulations. The media frenzied, but the core truth remained. Thorne's reign of terror was over, his legacy tarnished forever, replaced by headlines of justice served. Liam and Victoria faced the newly restructured board, not as accused but as key figures in the company's salvation. Victoria, shedding her detached demeanor, spoke passionately about ethical governance and transparency. Liam, overcoming his initial reluctance, echoed her sentiments, his voice steady. They were offered new pivotal roles, tasked with rebuilding trust and ensuring a more principled future. The company, scarred but revitalized, began its slow, arduous journey towards redemption. Their professional future was secure. Liam watched Clara draw, her small hand meticulously coloring a vibrant sun. A peace he hadn't known in years settled over him. The financial strains were gone, replaced by a sense of security. He no longer felt invisible. He had fought, not just for his child, but for what was right, and emerged victorious, his integrity intact. He looked at the framed photo of Clara, a smile gracing his lips. His cynicism had given way to a profound sense of hope. He had built a legacy of honesty for her. Victoria stood before her reflection, the impenetrable facade finally gone. The weight of her past choices, her pursuit of control, had been heavy. Now, a quiet resolve defined her. She had chosen a different path, one of responsibility and genuine connection. She understood now that true power lay not in manipulation, but in courage and integrity. Her vulnerability, once a weakness, was now a source of strength, enabling her to lead with empathy. She was truly free, forging a new, authentic legacy. Months passed. Liam, walking with Clara through a sun-dappled park, saw Victoria approaching. She carried a small, thoughtful gift for Clara. Their conversations were no longer strained, but easy, built on mutual respect. They had found an unexpected partnership, transforming their shared ordeal into a foundation for a better future. Liam smiled, his daughter laughing beside him. He trusted now, not blindly, but with an open heart. The path ahead was uncertain, but for the first time he faced it with profound hope.